you.
Awesome.
You can make me mayor for 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order. Today is Wednesday, October 18th, 2023, and it is 6:33 p.m. We are 3 minutes behind schedule. I apologize to folks. Again, thank you for your patience. I was just coming from a lovely chat at the Nevada County Business Women's Group. And busted it over here from Madeline Helling Library. Very happily to be here. I'd like to invite my colleague Gary Peterson, Vice Mayor, to read our Nisenan tribal recognition, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition.
Thank you so much, Gary. And Dean Pucci, Esquire, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Squire. Ooh. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Pucci. All right, Councilmember Fleming, I will note, will not be with us this evening. Councilmember Klein is with us via Zoom, which we will address in a moment. For now, Madam Deputy City Clerk, can you please give us a roll call for the folks in this room?
Councilmember Ceci.
Here.
Councilmember Klein on. Vice Mayor Peterson.
You were going to say Peterson. Present.
Vice Mayor. And Mayor Fernandez.
I am here, thank you. Mr. City Manager, I understand there is a request to add an item to the agenda to allow Councilmember Klein to participate remotely. Can you please share that request with us?
Sure. We are requesting that you add an item to your agenda this evening, which would be a consideration of allowing remote participation by Councilmember Klein at this meeting. This need came up after the posting of our agenda due to an illness, so it's not an agendized item, but there is need to take immediate action so that he could participate. In order for you to consider that request, you first have to vote to add the item to the agenda. So adding the item to the agenda would require a motion, a second, and a unanimous roll call vote because we only have 3 members here. And then if you did that, then I could present what the item actually is.
I move we add the item to the agenda.
Great, I was going to say, I'm looking for a motion in a second, and you guys are right on it, so thank you so much. I have a motion by Vice Mayor Peterson and a second by Councilmember Ceci. We need a roll call, please.
Councilmember Ceci.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
And Mayor Fernandez.
Yes. Great. Sean, can you please present the added item?
Sure. So under the Brown Act, there are 2 considerations for remote participation in meetings. In this case, Councilmember Klein is requesting remote participation under what they call the Just Clause provision. If approved, he would participate with us this evening via Zoom in the same fashion as if he was in the room, but the implication or the result is that all of the votes of the council need to be by roll call. Otherwise, the meeting could proceed as normal. You would need to have a motion and a second and a unanimous vote again because there's only 3 of you here. And before that, Councilmember Klein needs to provide a general description of the just cause, and he also needs to state whether there's any other individuals 18 years or older in the room with him and what the relationship to those individuals is. So that should be interesting here in a second. And with that, I will give it to Councilmember Klein once we bring him into Zoom world.
Go ahead, Adam.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. I'm requesting remote participation due to just cause. Number 2 is listed in the legislation, specifically, a contagious illness prevents me from attending in person, and there is nobody in the room with me.
Are you certain?
Can you look around?
It's a small room.
Okay. I am looking for a motion and a second to approve the remote participation of Councilmember Klein.
I so move.
I second.
Great.
I assume that there's no way you can ask for public comment. It is a new agenda item.
Oh, for sure. If there's any public comment in the room, anybody would like to comment on this item? No, going once? Okay, and what about online, Gabby?
There is not.
Okay. So I have a motion by Councilmember Cece and a second by Vice Mayor Peterson. Gabby, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
And Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Passes 3-0.
Excellent. Welcome, Adam. You're official.
Thanks, everybody.
And thank you for not bringing your contagious disease.
I was looking out for you, Gary.
I appreciate it.
Okay, next we're going to go to the adoption of the agenda. Council, now is the time for any agenda modifications. Would anybody like to make any changes to the agenda, pull consent items, or do we have recusals to announce?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Excellent. I like that you're on this tonight, Gary.
I second.
Second from the Zoom. Okay. So I have a motion by Vice Mayor Peterson and a second by Councilmember Klein. Gabby, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez?
Yes. Excellent. So now that all that is out of the way, we are going to move on to some presentations. We have a proclamation this evening. The proclamation is for Holy Trinity Episcopal Church and their 150-year anniversary. Wow, congratulations. We are going to ask Councilmember Cece to go to the podium, if that's okay, and be joined by representatives of the church who, Councilmember Cece, you can introduce.
Yes, I would like to introduce Father Brad Helmuth, who is the rector of Holy Trinity Church. And he will be receiving this proclamation, which, with permission of the mayor, I will be delivering. Ordinarily, the mayor does this, but she gave me permission. So, whereas Holy Trinity Episcopal Church is one of Nevada City's oldest continuously operating institutions, and whereas Holy Trinity Episcopal Church is approaching its 150th anniversary at its current location in Nevada City, and whereas, now here the whereas gets a little long because it goes into the whole history of our church, which, as you can imagine, at 150 years is quite lengthy. So with the mayor's permission and with yours, Father, I will do an abbreviated third whereas. Whereas Holy Trinity Episcopal Church of Nevada City is celebrating the 150th anniversary of its building at 201 Nevada Street in Nevada City, California. And Holy Trinity is inviting members of the community to come and experience the beauty and charm of its historic building on November 4th, featuring an open house with docents in period costumes, music programs, and refreshments all day. And the celebration continues on November 5th with a service celebrated by the Right Reverend Megan M. Tarquar, the 8th Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Northern California, with a fellowship breakfast following and a compline service that evening. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Nevada City does hereby honor the 150th anniversary of the Holy Trinity Episcopal Church and urges those who visit, live, work, and play in Nevada City to participate in one of the upcoming celebratory events. Congratulations, Father.
Thank you.
And now is your time, if you wish to say anything.
Well, I know I'm speaking on behalf of all the people that have called Holy Trinity home. It's always a joy to be a part of Nevada City, to be in Nevada City, but to be a part of it, to serve the town and the people that find themselves in this town. So thank you for this proclamation.
Father Brad, thank you so much. I'm your neighbor. I'm just a couple doors down. So I look forward to coming and visiting you on the anniversary in November.
Sheet cake, Daniela. Sheet cake.
Sheet cake. Oh, my goodness. I won't- Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to do that presentation, Mayor.
Oh, absolutely. That's easy. Makes sense. Thank you for asking. Okay, next we have public comment. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on the consent calendar and each agenda item at the time it is heard. Is there any public comment on the room that is not on the agenda? Feel free to please come up. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, honorable city council members and city officials. My name is Rory Lynn Gotham. I live at 111 Perseverance Mine Court in Nevada City. And you might recall that I spoke with you recently about the opportunity for the homeowners to terminate the CCNRs before December 31st. This neighborhood originally was designated in 1993 as a low-income housing project, but allow me to do a reality check. These 13 houses are now 30 years old and showing serious signs of needing expensive repairs and replacements. Roofs, siding, painting, dry rot, plumbing, flooring, and the like that most old houses start to experience. Given the equity limitation on resale or the deed restriction listed in the CCNRs and in a separate agreement, we are finding it challenging, if even possible, to secure funding via equity lines of credit or small personal loans because of this condition. Without the ability to keep pace with the need to keep these buildings, which are our homes, in good condition, this will eventually negatively impact the overall condition of this housing project. The original purpose of the low-income housing is not being fulfilled any longer since there are now 7 of the 13 dwellings that are rentals at very high current rental market rates, and they are not affordable for low-income families. Some houses have 4 or 5 roommates. Rentals change the attitude from homeownership, and parking in this area is really ugly. Some of us are aging, and with time we'll need access to the equity in our homes for moving into senior assisted living facilities. Plus, having the struggle to find a low-income family with 20% down at today's high 8% mortgage rate, which was posted today, to qualify under the guidelines. It's very limiting. So, there are some real-life reasons for the city and council to review the possibility of modifying the details of the restrictions imposed on the current owners. I started this effort over 5 years ago and until recently have never had any response to my inquiries. We're asking you to move out the December 31st, 2023 deadline for at least 1 year, which will allow more time to work through an agreement together to modify the terms and conditions set forth originally that may be outdated and potentially irrelevant to the current housing conditions in Nevada County. Mercy Housing has offered their assistance in moving through any process to modify or terminate the CCNRs. Please thoroughly consider this request and let us hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rory. You were exactly at 3 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
I timed it. I had to watch my breathing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rory.
Council, Dean, can the vice mayor ask a question of the city manager in regards to public comment? It's up to you, Mayor. Yes, I say yes.
Although sympathetic, it's my understanding that this does not fall under our purview.
So it's a little more complicated than that, but essentially, yes. So the development was used funding from HUD that was passed through by the city. The CCNRs that she's speaking of and the deed restrictions she's speaking of were requirements of the development that they be low income or very low income in perpetuity. The CCNRs can be removed by the end of this year or will automatically renew. The deed restriction doesn't have a similar provision. So we've been working with the city attorney's office and staff to try to find solutions to this. We just don't see a path forward, but we can continue to explore options.
You don't see it, just more explicitly, you don't see a path forward because?
So since this is not, I understood this just to be a question of staff, since it's not an agendized item. I think staff has heard the question and will bring something back to the council and to the citizen in terms of what the city's position is and what our limitations are, if that's acceptable to the council at this point.
Yes,
That sounds great. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Rory.
Could I ask a quick retort?
Yes.
So if there is a chance that we could continue our dialogue past December 31st, 2023 deadline date, that would be a huge step.
Go ahead.
We could bring this item back to you November 8th if you would like.
So well before that date. Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you all.
Is there any comments on items not on the agenda via Zoom? Please go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Hello, Matthew Coulter calling in, and little dismayed to see how small of a crowd it is, but did like that the skateboard crowd showed up in force. So it just shows that certain things are desired in the community, and other things are kind of over the top, and I think people feel they can't really do much about it, so they don't participate. I would like you all, at some point this week, to walk down behind the National Hotel on the Miners Trail and check out the pipe with the glycol sewage coming out of it. Sean had it tested. It does meet standard barely for being a discharge into the creek, but I want you to look at it. And if you think that that is something that you would have your dog or your child touch or swim in or fish in or anything else, and I think today is actually Protect the Water Day nationally. So it comes at a good time to consider our water and what we're doing to our water. Now that NID has also turned down their volume for the year, a lot of trash is accessible now that wasn't before. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
That's all, Madam Mayor.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Before we take action on the consent calendar, we will hear any public comment on consent calendar items only, including any requests to pull consent items. Do we have any public comment on consent items either in the room or online? All right, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I move we approve the consent calendar.
I second. You surprised
I
me.
forgot you were there, Adam. You scared us all.
I did it just to remind you guys.
Thank you for that. Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Klein and a second by Vice Mayor Peterson. Gabby, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
And Mayor Fernandez?
Yes, thank you.
Motion carries 4-0.
Excellent. So we're moving forward to business items. Item number 6 on the agenda, consideration of adoption of Resolution 2023-48, a resolution of the City of Nevada City, California, submitting a special transactions and use tax measure to the voters at the March 5th, 2024 general municipal election and taking certain related actions. Consideration of Ordinance 2023-10, an ordinance of the City of Nevada City, California, imposing a special tax a special transactions and use tax to be administered by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration to fund the city's wildfire prevention and mitigation program, and consideration of adoption of the Nevada City Wildfire Prevention and Mitigation Plan as developed by the Nevada City Fire Safe Advisory Committee. We are going to ask our city manager, Sean Grayson, to take it away with the presentation.
Thank you. No slides tonight. So last council meeting, you provided direction to staff to prepare the required documents to consider this tax measure for wildfire prevention and mitigation program. It would go on the March 5th, 2024 ballot. And the Fire Safety Advisory Committee met after that meeting after our last council meeting on October 12th, reviewed and updated the plan that is attached to the staff report for your consideration. The plan includes proposed areas of work, actions, and timelines, and it's really based on a number of years of work of that committee. And it is broken down into actions of public safety, vegetation management, fuels mitigation, and community education and outreach, which everything kind of funnels into neatly, which is hard to do when you take a complex issue and break it down into small pieces that it can fit into. The plan is aligned with the needs of the community and really constitutes the basis of the tax measure. The financial need for the basis of the tax measure, as we've discussed at our last meeting, was really illustrated in this current year's budget, our 5-year capital improvement program, where we identified unmet needs and as well as essentially deferred or unkept maintenance of property for purposes of defensible space and vegetation management. The need, total expense need that the city has under this program is about $1.15 million, $1,150,000. But in this budget, you already approved our community risk reduction and outreach officer position, which will oversee all of the programs related to this, as well as we secured a grant for a wildfire fuels mitigation equipment operator, somebody to run heavy equipment around, which we are doing interviews for this week. So if you remove the combined value of $250,000 of investment that the city has already made into the program, you're left with a net annual need of about $900,000. So on that basis, the proposed tax measure is a half-cent sales tax, or 0.5%. Special sales tax, which requires a 2/3 voter approval, and that tax is anticipated to generate $900,000 in annual revenue. The proposed tax has a 5-year sunset and an oversight committee, just like all of our previous taxes have in the past. The specific uses of the tax, in other words, the things that the voters would say we could use the tax for and hold us accountable for using the tax for, we'd be restricted to those are defined in the staff report, but I'll read them out loud. Activities and services designed to prevent wildfires and mitigate wildfire risks, such as reducing flammable vegetation throughout the city, designated, improving, and maintaining and expanding emergency evacuation routes and refuge areas, and conducting evacuation training, providing education, outreach, grant funding, and community training on wildfire prevention and building home hardening, developing and implementing enhanced community-oriented defensible space inspection practices, establishing and maintaining emergency communications and early warning systems, and seeking outside grants for the above. The plan from the committee, as I said earlier, really neatly breaks down that into those 4 areas of public safety, fuels management, and community engagement and education. The description of the tax measure that is before you is exclusively to fund a locally controlled wildfire prevention and mitigation program that includes the reduction of flammable vegetation throughout Nevada City, the improvement and maintenance of emergency communications, early warning systems, evacuation routes, and temporary refuge areas, the implementation of a community-oriented defensible space practices and other activities and services, shall the measure adding a 0.5% Nevada City sales tax, providing approximately $900,000 annually over a 5-year period, monitored by a Citizens Oversight Committee, be adopted. The language is very similar to the language that this community has previously adopted in our current Measure M, its predecessor Measure S, and Measure C. Adoption of the resolution this evening submits the tax measure and the ordinance, which is an appendix to the resolution, to the voters on the March 5th, 2024 election ballot. For the tax to actually go into effect, the ordinance has to be adopted directly by the city council, 2/3 vote of the members, under the city council's power to adopt ordinances, meaning you will do first reading tonight and you'll have to adopt at the next meeting on November 8th, the ordinance. And then it must be adopted by the voters with a 2/3 majority. If the tax receives a 2/3 vote or greater of the electorate, it goes into effect the 10th day following the adoption by the voters. Adoption of the Wildfire Prevention and Mitigation Plan will allow the Fire Safety Advisory Committee to continue its work, really to develop implementation planning relative to that plan and related activities of the City Council adopted document. We won't just say, put a tax measure on in March 5th and hope for the best. As I stated, we have a grant-funded position, we have a budget-funded position, and we have work in progress with the assistance of the Fire Safety Advisory Committee. So that work will continue, and in that regard, we'll hire that grant-funded fuels mitigation equipment operator we hope by the end of November. That's, like I said, we've been doing interviews this week. That position will be responsible to begin the process of roadside fuels abatement, slivers abatement, given existing funding. Similarly, we anticipate hiring the community risk reduction and outreach officer by January of 2024. That position really will be responsible for all things related to fire risk reduction, but most importantly being the face of this very important thing to our community. And then we're currently engaged with a consultant to develop the first steps towards a Nevada City-specific community wildfire protection plan, which, for those that aren't familiar with it, is an umbrella document that ties together state level, regional level, and county level planning for wildfire protection and preparedness, and puts a local lens on it. It looks at all of the data from risks and fire starts and topography and history and all of those things, and puts it into actionable items that would address the reduction of those risks, and those are prioritized by community engagement and involvement and ultimately adoption by the City Council. We anticipate hearing a proposal at the Fire Safety Advisory Committee in January on that, and hopefully being in front of the council in February. That will be funded using American Rescue Plan Act funds dedicated for that purpose. That said, we'd love to hear any public comments and answer any questions. And then the action this evening is a motion, a separate motion, second, and roll call vote for each of the three things on the agenda, which is first, adoption of the resolution; second, first reading, waive reading of ordinance in its entirety, read by title only, which we will do for you, and schedule for second reading the ordinance; and thirdly, adopt the Nevada City Wildfire Prevention and Mitigation Plan.
Sean, thank you so much for that thorough assessment of what we're about to embark upon. Before we bring it to the table and the committee, I'd like to see if there's any public comment in the room on this item.
And just for the record and clarity, the mayor's asking for public comment on the three sub-items of this agenda item, namely Resolution 2023-48, Ordinance 2023-10, and the Nevada City Wildfire Prevention and Mitigation Plan.
I sure am. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to make comments on those. My name is Diana Gamzon. I live at 227 King Hiram Lane here in Nevada City, and I support the adoption of 1, 2, and 3 items. And what I'd like to say about this item is, and I feel like I'm stating the obvious, because Nevada City does a really, really good job of engagement. But I think that this is definitely an item that needs above and beyond engagement, just because so many were fresh off of, what was it, last year, the year before with the county's measure. And so one thing that I observed from that process that I think could really help us this year is meeting people where they're at. There was some community meetings that go around, but I feel like having, maybe it's a morning meeting or a morning coffee or something where people could come to, talk about questions about this measure. Of course, community town halls about it, but making sure that when there is a community town hall, that it's recorded. And that there's a lot of engagement with anybody who may have questions or opposition or whatever it may be, that everything's out on the table and recorded so that people can, in their own time, educate themselves. Because I feel like, especially with taxes and things like this, there's all sorts of stories and rumors and just all of that. And so as much as that could be controlled for with really good communication and transparency ahead of time, but Messy does a really good job of that anyhow. That's the comment I had.
Thank you so much, Diana. I would like to ask council to clarify the role of the city versus community engagement around education on this topic moving forward.
Sure, thanks, Madam Mayor. And this is for the public commenter as well as any members of the public who are unclear about the city's role. There are very strict legal requirements when a city places a special tax or a ballot measure on the ballot. Specifically, the city staff, the city in general, the city council, and members of the city council, as members of the city council, are strictly prohibited from advocating for or against the ballot measure. So the city's role is very, very limited in terms of it sometimes is referred to as education, not educating, not advocating. And so each of the council members can certainly reach out for separate legal advice on this matter, but to the general public should understand that the city's role is strictly limited by law in terms of not advocating for the tax whatsoever.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Would it be appropriate for the city to host a forum with positions both for and against on this item, much like we did on previous measures?
Yes, so long as the city can provide a location for any group or advocate group, so long as the city officials, no public funds are being spent, no official positions are being used to try and influence the passage or the failure of passage of that position or that initiative. So the answer is yes, we can host and provide a space for any group, so long as we're not in any way advocating for one position or the other.
Right. Thank you so much. Any other public comment in the room? And what about online, Gabby?
If you'd like to speak to this topic, raise your hand. We do. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, Matthew Coulter. I appreciate the special tax. It just feels, and I watched the process, it just feels like you guys are doing the right thing. And like you said, Nevada City usually uses special taxes, and the voters usually pass them because you're not just throwing it to the wind. I guess I have a specific question on all the fuel load that is literally in the canyons of Deer Creek and also Little Deer Creek that have been thrown off the back of properties for the past 100 years, and especially the last few years. Green waste seems like it would be a priority for the city because people will tend to get rid of their waste if there's a place to put it. And because there isn't a place to put it, they just don't get rid of it, and it just builds up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Appreciate that feedback.
And that is all, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. So I'm going to bring this back to the table. Before I do so, I just want to say, Sean, thanks again for that thorough staff report and also doing such a great job of taking all of our feedback and putting it forward here. I'm going to go to our committee members and want to hear from you.
Okay, I'll go first. First is just a question to you, Sean. Under the tax considerations, we do mention building and home hardening, but the tax measure description does not. Any particular reason why that wording was not included in the description?
You're talking about the actual title of the tax?
The tax measure description section. begins with exclusively to fund a locally
Yeah,
controlled.
that is the ballot measure, and it's limited to characters. So you
Oh.
can only fit so many words in there,
That's-
and we have to put as many words as we can. And so
Okay.
it does not include all of the items that are in the Roman numeraled activities and services that I read off.
But we do want to do all of those.
Absolutely. So the Roman numeraled ones are represent the exclusive list by which the voters approve the use of the funds. The statement is the ballot measure is the limited characters of which we can ask the voters to vote to do those things.
Good, because when that question comes up, I want to have a good answer.
Yes, absolutely. It is both represented in the activities and services as well as the model budget that is in the staff report.
Right.
And it is heavily featured in the wildfire prevention and mitigation plan that the Fire Safety Advisory Committee has asked you to adopt. So I think it is well represented, just not in that one statement.
Okay, and now to my opinion.
For sure. Thanks for that clarifying question.
We have had a year of grace when it comes to wildfire. We've had a cooler than usual year. We've had a wetter than usual year. We've had fewer windy conditions than in years past. But this will not continue. We need a wildfire mitigation and prevention plan, and we need to be able to fund it. All of these things need to happen in order to not just mitigate and prevent fire, but recover from it. The more structures that can survive the inevitable wildfire that will hit this town at some point in the future, the quicker we will be able to rebuild and restart our lives. I strongly urge the adoption of all three of these parts of the measure.
Thank you, Lou. Yes, sir.
Oh, that was
Vice
clear.
Mayor.
That was clear. I hope it's a high bar for me. So I want to speak first to the plan, and I want to thank a number of people who, the Fire Safety Advisory Committee, the subcommittee. So we set out to co-create a plan that could be supported by this committee, who's been doing an enormous amount of work over 3 years, and to pull it together from a variety of sources. So you guys don't see the file title, but this is version 5 of the plan. And it's been reformatted and whittled down and worked on and cleaned up and cleared with the advice from the entire committee, with a subcommittee. And I think what we have here is something that is very straightforward. Like all plans, this is a great start. One of my favorite lines is, "We plan, the gods laugh." But we will live into this plan and see how it changes and grows. Point of the plan, though, is it is critical that we get the funding to execute and implement this plan. Whether we do or not, some version of this plan is our path forward. The timing of the implementation will be driven by funding. There is, as Sean identified, there is currently a $900,000 shortfall. We have 3 sources of potential funding, which would be the sales tax measure, the general fund, and grants. And if we pushed into relying on the general fund and grants, it will slow things down immensely. And at the general fund, as we understand it very well, after we've rebuilt the budget over the last 3 years and understand very clearly how much money we have and where it goes, is that any extra funding that goes to wildland fire mitigation and prevention will mean that something else falls short. That's how well we understand our budget, and we know how it works. It's set up to be a special tax because we have historically done that in this town, and that is how we do it. But it's also because we're saying that this is what we're going to do, and this is what we need to do. So, like my colleagues, this is a direction that it's absolutely we need to go. We are behind the curve on this. There's just no doubt. There's a lot of reasons for that. But we're standing here saying we've got to get moving on this. We're making the right moves. We're talking to the right people. And again, I've described this as a bottom-up and top-down process. We've got to build out the safety net in our community through our Firewise communities and our neighborhoods. But we also need to align with the county and the state and the feds for funding, for the data, for all the information that they have. And moving in the right direction by aligning with the county CWPP is precisely what we need to do. So there's a lot of work going on that's going to get us where we need to go. The matter is how quickly we get there. And that will be about the funding, and that's why the sales tax initiative is so important. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Klein.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Dean, you might have answered this already, in which case I'll blame it on the cold medicine. It sounds like the elected council members wouldn't be able to advocate for or against this once if it is to be on the ballot. Would the unelected members of the Fire Safety Advisory Committee be able to do so?
So long as they're not city employees or using city funds to do so, it would be the same rules as allow individual council members, not in their capacity as council members, but as residents of the city to do so.
I see. Okay, thank you. I think my colleagues outlined my feelings on this as well. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Adam. I just want to thank the efforts of our elected committee members. Thank you so much for all your work on this, and also other volunteer committee members. Thank you, thank you. This is a long time coming. I said this last time, we had a clear mandate from the community, and I think this is government at its best. We get a mandate from the community. We assess our capacity to be able to meet that need. And in this case, we're not financially able to meet that need. So what we're doing is the next option, which is matching the community's desire to see this wildfire risk reduction with their desire to fund it. And so I'm excited to put this to a vote to the people, democracy in action. And with that, I'm looking for 3 separate motions, second, and a roll call. The first being to adopt Resolution 2023-48.
I'll second.
Great. So, Dean?
Resolution 2023-48, a resolution of the City of Nevada City, California, submitting a special transactions and use tax measure to the voters at the March 5th, 2024 general municipal election and taking certain related actions. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Great. And now I'm looking for a motion to hold first reading, waive reading of ordinance 2023-10 in its entirety, read by title only, and schedule for second reading and adoption November 8th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance 2023-10, an ordinance of the City of Nevada City, California, imposing a special transactions and use tax to be administered by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration to fund the city's wildfire prevention and mitigation program. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
And Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
And finally, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the Nevada City Wildfire Prevention and Mitigation Plan.
I move with some gratitude for those who participated in the development of this plan that we approve the Nevada City Wildfire Prevention and Mitigation Plan.
I second that, and also second the sentiments about the wonderful amount of work the committee and its volunteer members have put into this.
Roll call.
Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Excellent. We'll see you March 5th on that one, huh? And I'm sure before then as well. Moving on. Well done, everybody. Well done. Those at the table and those at home as well. Item number 7, consideration of award of contract with C&D Contractors, Inc. and an amount not to exceed $170,810 for sewer line trestle bridge repair, authorize a project contingency of 10%, not to exceed $17,081, and authorize the city manager to execute any contracts or related documents. Do we have Brian McAllister here?
We don't, but I will take it for him and do a worse job than he would have, Madam Mayor. No worries. So this is a consideration of a contract award. This is damage from Snowmageddon 1. So December 28th through the 30th of 2021, damage was done to the sewer trestle, so sewer line running underneath a bridge and how it's supported. The sewer line itself is safe, intact, and currently running, but we need to essentially replace the entire mechanism by which it's supported so that it can be safely used in perpetuity instead of, when might this fail someday? Brian and the team put this item out to bid. We got an extension from OES to get to this point to be able to do this. This was a little more complex than removing trees or filling holes or, snow damage or things like that. So as you can imagine, the engineering required to do anything that you hang underneath a bridge requires a specialist. Anything to do with a sewer pipe requires a specialist. And then getting contractors to understand what the work is and be able to bid on it takes a little more effort than kind of your normal construction project. Thankfully, we're able to get 4 bidders for the project, and C&D Contractors was the lowest responsive bidder, lowest bidder overall. With what we're requesting tonight is that you approve both the contract and bid award as well as the contingency, which is a 10% contingency. For your information, we generally don't use almost any of our contingency funds, but on something like this, you could imagine all the things that could happen or could come up when you're looking to attach something to the underside of a bridge related to an active sewer pipe. So we wouldn't want Brian to have to bring that back to council to get permission to spend those additional funds. So that's why we're asking for those and really do need them this evening. And with that, I would request that you approve the item.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. I'm going to go to the room. Any public comment in the room? Not seeing any. Moving to online.
We do. Go ahead, Matthew.
One of my favorite topics. Hey, there's some other sewer lines that really need some attention, and there's one in particular that's being, a tree is growing into it, and it's causing it to have a kink in it and disjoin at the joint, and that is just above the Stonehouse parking lot, just a few feet from the Stonehouse parking lot up the creek. It crosses the creek, and it will be a problem in the future. Thank you.
Thanks so much for keeping an eye on things, Matthew.
That is all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Coming back to the table, Gary, you're chomping at the bit for this one. What you got?
No, so let's salute all those who overbuild things. We were so lucky not to lose that pipe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which would have been disastrous. It's just, but it's been held there by the cables, which were a secondary method of suspension, with the trestle being the primary one, and they caught it and they've held it, and it's hung in there. I hope that the 10% contingency is enough. Because this is a really tricky business, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm glad that we got to it, because it's just a matter of time. And to Mr. Coulter, we have 150-year-old sewer lines here, and thank you for catching that one. But boy, they're everywhere. So this is a good project, and I hope it goes well.
Thanks, Gary. Lou, Adam, anything?
Well, I'm just curious. It's said that it's on a bridge, but it's not the South Pine Bridge. So is that bridge used for anything? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious what the bridge is used for now in addition to carrying this sewer line. It's not the South Pine Bridge, right? So it's some other bridge. Is it foot traffic or anything else?
It's a car bridge.
It's under the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not. We have some strange configurations of under, and in the case of the Broad Street Bridge, through the water line runs through the bridge. So I don't know who designed that.
So this,
I'm not an engineer, it's probably
so this does run under the Pine Street Bridge?
this, the line itself.
Yeah.
I have to look.
Okay,
Is it? It is the Pine Street Bridge. It's the, what's that?
It is.
Yeah,
okay,
It
good.
is.
yeah.
Thanks.
And that's what makes it so tricky because of the height of the drop and everything else.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That's the only question I had.
Adam, anything on your end?
I just want to thank the city for getting bids from 4 local contractors and the winning bid being a very local Nevada City contractor. Makes me glad. Looking forward to this project being completed.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for keeping it local. Okay, I have nothing else to add. I'm looking for a motion to award the contract, authorize the contingency, and authorize the city manager to execute related documents.
I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the contract, allowing the city manager to sign the documents and the contingency.
Yeah, I think
Second.
that works. Good way to piece it together, Gary. All right, Madam Deputy Clerk.
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
And Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Trucking right along, final agenda item number 8, resolution, consideration of resolution 2023-49, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, adopting the City of Nevada City 2024 legislative platform and authorizing the mayor and city manager to have signature authority for letters of advocacy. Sean, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Brian is not trying to avoid you this evening. Him and the rest of the crew have been dealing with a number of issues, not the least of which is a big water project or a big need for a water system repair. As to Vice Mayor Peterson's point, our sewer system is 150 years old, and so is our water system. So, he's
Thanks
not-
for that clarification.
Wasn't trying to skip out on you.
I was wondering about Brian.
So your legislative platform, last November, you adopted a legislative platform at the same time you adopted our strategic plan. So there was the first ever strategic plan and the first ever legislative platform. Since then, we have adopted a new budget process, a new 5-year CIP, first ever 5-year CIP, and that has driven some changes in the legislative platform. It really is a tool that helps us navigate the legislative landscape, but it is a statement of the council's policy as far as things that you would like to advocate for or against as far as legislation at the state, regional, state, or federal level that might directly impact the city or its ability to provide services. It also allows us to be very responsive to our partners like the county, the city of Grass Valley, NID, state agencies, when they are seeking grant applications or other activities. It often comes down to the wire when they're submitting these things, and they often need a letter turned around relatively quickly. Anything that is in our legislative platform, either support or oppose, I'm authorized in the resolution and in the platform itself to create the letter for the mayor's signature or to sign it myself if it's a request for a staff letter, that can be included when we're trying to help out our partners. So the significant changes that are not significant changes, but the changes in the platform are primarily the result of projects in the 5-year CIP. We also added legislative positions in support of Nisenan and Indigenous housing, land back, and federal recognition. The Nisenan are an embedded strategic initiative, but we did not have specific legislative positions in that regard. But they are referenced in our strategic plan in each of those areas in our housing and other things, and the council has taken action specifically in regard to land back and federal recognition. So it's normal we're a little bit ahead. Normally we'd take this in November like we did last year, but we'll miss the cutoff to be able to integrate this into the county's existing work. As they did last year, they've offered to essentially take our legislative platform and try to see where things align and include our positions in their positions, which is very gracious of them and has been effective in not only the relationship but in our opportunities to gain funds for a variety of projects. So, but in the future, you can modify our legislative platform anytime you like. Places that might trigger our modification are first in January. The first meeting in January, we'll do a 2023 year in review, where we will present you all the data on our performance relative to the strategic plan, goals and objectives in the budget related to the strategic plan or other plans. And so you may have things there. At that meeting, we also intend to do a values workshop item led by the vice mayor, and certainly clear definition of values may change the council's take on things that they advocate for in legislation. Second, the mid-year budget, which comes up in February 28th, I believe. Third, the budget workshop, which I believe is May 1st, and then in the budget adoption in June. So if it's not of high importance or significance that we include it, I just take note of it, include it in the revision that you would adopt next year. If it is of immediate importance, we can always adopt a new legislative platform at any council meeting. So with that in mind, we would request that you adopt the 2024 legislative platform. It is not too late to make changes, so if you saw something in there you don't like or didn't see something that you would like, you could certainly direct me to add or amend the document this evening.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean.
They're chanting for me outside.
I was going to say, I appreciate the dulcet backup tunes from across the way. All right, taking it to the room. Any public comment?
Good evening. Diana Gamzon, Executive Director of the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. I want to thank the city for including cannabis as one of the legislative priorities with specific things related to banking and local control and enforcement and some other items related to cannabis, as well as economic development for businesses, tourism. I think these are all really important. And our organization partners with, we partner with other regional trade associations that represent legacy cannabis producing regions, so the Humboldt County Growers Alliance, the Mendocino Cannabis Alliance, Big Sur Farmers Association, Trinity County, Sonoma County, and some others. And we all pool together for a lobbyist in Sacramento that represents the interests of small cannabis businesses and independent cannabis businesses in Sacramento. So as there are various items that impact our industry here, I will definitely bring that to the city. You have all been really supportive, and I'm really grateful for our Nevada City cannabis industry being a strategic priority for the council. And so thank you all, and I'll bring items to you as they come up.
Great. Look forward to it, Diana. Thank you. Any public comment online, Gabby?
There is. Go ahead, Matthew.
Right now there's a CPR in progress on Commercial Street from one of our unhoused people. I really hope that within the plans of the city, we can take the less fortunate into our planning. Thank you.
Thanks for that reminder, Matthew. All right,
That is all,
back to the table. Nothing from Gary, nothing from Lou. What about you, Adam?
I have nothing to add on this. Thank you.
All right. I just want to say thank you for your work on this, Mr. City Manager. And again, appreciate the coordination with the county and aligning our legislative priorities. And again, this is just, something that Gary and I talk about quite a bit, is just getting us on track. getting all of our ducks in a row and making sure that we are moving efficiently and that there are mechanisms for accountability for our goals and roles as a council. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the 2024 legislative platform resolution.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Excellent. I've got a motion and a second.
Resolution 2023-49, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City adopting the City of Nevada City 2024 legislative platform and authorizing the mayor and city manager to have signature authority for letters of advocacy.
Fantastic. All right.
Councilmember
Madam-
Cece.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson. Yes. And Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Excellent. Look at that, breezing right through. Now we're going to our city manager's report.
Thank you. We only have 2 more council meetings for all of 2023.
What? How is that possible?
Gone so fast. So November 8th and December 14th. December 14th is a Thursday. We switched from Wednesday to Thursday to avoid the Victorian Christmas rush. Although there might be something cool for Victorian Christmas at City Hall to be determined.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
It might
Watch
be
our November 8th meeting to
art-related.
find out more information. We also have several committee meetings coming up before the end of the year that we would encourage folks to attend, not the least of which is an infrastructure committee, a vibrancy committee, and a workshop by the housing committee. Since we won't see anybody in person or virtually for council meetings before Halloween, please, if you have little kids, join Grass Valley for their downtown trick or treat. If you have older kids or kids you want to get rid of, come over to the Rood Center for free parking, trick or treat there throughout their entire complex, and then ride the free bus to downtown Nevada City. And you'll be able to trick or treat here downtown until 5, but the bus runs till 7 to take you back up there so you can have dinner, have drinks, whatever you'd like to do. And of course, Upper Broad will be closed probably around 4:30 because it's haunted houses and all the activities that go on up there. We expect a couple thousand kids of all ages at that part of town, or ghosts and goblins if you would like. If you're more into books, join the mayor and I at the Martha Riley Library. If you don't like the sound of my voice, don't be there at 3:15 as I read a book. Come slightly later. Hopefully it's Spookly the Square Pumpkin. That's my favorite Halloween book for kids. But and then look for the November and December newsletter online and in your mailbox the week of Halloween. Updates from all of our departments and fall activities, safety tips, and more. That's all I have this evening, Madam Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I hope to be reading right after you at 3:30, if that slot's available. I don't know what my book is yet. I am open to recommendations as I don't have children and have no clue and will probably do a Google search of the most woke Halloween books for children.
I don't know if they're going to let us read Edgar Allan Poe, but
Right, correct. Excellent. Mr. City Manager, are you able to, do you have dates in front of you for vibrancy, housing, the committee meetings coming up?
the housing workshop is November 9th. The vibrancy committee is November 15th, and the infrastructure committee is December 7th.
Excellent. So Miriam Morris, that's for you, bottoms up, just to make sure all those dates are on everyone's radar. Council members, what have you got? What have you been up to this last couple weeks? Week?
Me, I've been sleeping and lying in bed because I had COVID again for a second time. And I would like to personally thank my neighbors in Piety Hill who took really good care of me, checking up on me every day and buying me groceries. That was really nice of them. And the other thing I want to mention is that I think Perseverance Mine Road is a treasure in this city, and I hope we can find a way to help them achieve their goal.
Thanks, Lou.
A lot of fire committee meetings, but other than that, the mayor and I had the occasion to attend a gathering in Pioneer Park with the Jewish community as they shared wisdom, prayed for a path forward in the Middle East, and it was I'm not going to get over that. It was very strong, very profound, and very important to see our community, that face of our community, which is not something that all of us see frequently. But I'll leave it to the mayor. She made some excellent, beautiful comments that was well done.
Thank you, sir.
I'll leave it at that.
Proud to have attended that with you. Certainly not under pleasant or happy circumstances as we see what's happening in the world in Palestine and Israel. It felt important to stand in solidarity with our Jewish neighbors and speak out against anti-Semitism, which I think is particularly important in this day and age, and also something that I shared this with Rabbi Nocum, is something that I've always really admired about Jewish community and Jewish faith is their public rituals of mourning. And I feel like that's what we were invited to be a part of. And I think it's so important to gather with people from our community to mourn loss. I think oftentimes we mourn in solitude, and that can be really isolating. And I think when we're able to come together with people with whom we have common culture and interest, I think it can be really powerful towards healing and moving forward. So I just want to say I'm devastated and saddened by all the violence in the world right now. And I hope that, gosh, this feels so trite, but my wish is for peace for people in Palestine and Israel. And I'm going to leave it at that without getting too political. And I also just want to note that Adam and I had a vibrancy committee meeting that went super well. It was fairly well attended, and we're excited to be putting forth some initiatives of public art before we establish our Public Arts Commission coming the first of the year, including perhaps here in City Hall during Victorian Christmas. Please stay tuned for that. And then I'm going to pass it to Adam in case he wants to say anything else about that or anything else about anything else.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank you and the Vice Mayor for making it to that gathering in the park. I wasn't able to be there, and that's probably for the best given how I feel right now, but it's important we show up for those kinds of things, so I appreciate you being there. It seems it's standard for me to have to talk about lighter things after talking about heavy things, so I'll just mention the Parks Committee meeting that we had, where the room you're in now is completely packed full of people who are very excited about the notion of Nevada City getting a skate park. And that was, well, Sean was there. It was wild and great. And I think we'll probably see some of them at our next meeting on November 8th. Is that right, Sean? We're talking about it some more?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So look forward to that. It was fun, and that was my first Parks Committee meeting. So I assume they're all that well attended by the public, no matter what. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for making it work out for me to participate in this meeting despite my condition, and I look forward to seeing everybody on November 8th.
Adam, thanks so much for showing up despite your condition. And also I heard really great things about the Parks and Rec meeting, so thank you for all your efforts on that. And with that, I'm looking for a motion. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I know everyone wants to go home.
How dare
Near
you.
real-time fact checking, that Trestle Bridge is not under the Pine Street Bridge. It is. It is. If you go further down Deer Creek, like heading towards Lake Wildwood, just where Bridge Street terminates down closer to the creek side, it's the old bridge that crosses there. So
That's what I thought.
I knew that, and I second
my
guessed
apologies. Thank you for asking. And for those at home, read our packet, and you'll see all that information from Brian, who is our subject matter expert.
Great. Who wasn't here tonight, by the way, Brian? We got your number. I'm looking for a motion in a second to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Great. All those in favor, say aye.